Remember, the deal is that basically you can't go back. That's the base position. Can't go back, you don't go back. Not happening. Not happening. Well, between them, the brains trust of Riccardo Tessitore, level 5, Sheldon Menery, level more than 5, as it were, and Rashad Miller on the tech crew. It's like Honolulu all over again. We have the cameras, we have the power and the technology, and we'll see what we can come up with. This, by the way, is why judging can sometimes be really, really hard, because when you've done it for a lot of years, suddenly you become the man or the woman who has to make this call in the semi-final of a Grand Prix. No wiggle room. Somebody's not going to like you, because Meditate doesn't say draw 4 cards. It says draw 4 cards, brackets. There's a big drawback to this, which you have to work your way around, which is skip your turn. And right now, that hasn't happened. The turn consists currently of a defense grid and a force of will with pitching ponder to get rid of that defense grid, which Chilbert has already put in his graveyard, thus indicating that the force of will and the ponder should be gone as well, since they've apparently successfully resolved. So that is the situation. You see Riccardo Tessitore hand coming in there. It's like our very own CSI, although there's no crime being committed, just to be clear. But the forensic scientists back in the lab, Rashad Miller and Rusty Kubis, are busy trying to work out just what went on there. So there must be some element of contemplating going back. So they're going to invite Colin Chilbert away from the table. Not because he's done anything wrong, just because this is a chance to have a conversation that doesn't involve Kenny Castor hearing. So it presumably involves, what did you have in your hand, what did you draw, what were your plans, da-da-da. And this has got to be fascinating psychologically when you look at what's going on. One of these two players could very easily be tilted significantly by what happened here. You saw Kenny go, what? At one point when Riccardo made his initial call that, from what it sounds like, that things will just continue. You both missed it, tough, on you go. Colin Chilbert back in his seat now, and Kenny Castor goes for pretty much the identical chat with Riccardo Tessitore. Wow. 15 plays 19. Delver, Insectile Aberration, Senses Divining Top. Who knows where that Force of Will and Ponder is going to reside at the end of all this? Maybe back in Castor's hand. Maybe that defense grid is going to be back in Chilbert's hand. And you can well imagine there is a significant crowd around the feature match area, really, really on the edge of their seat, because this is a really big moment. Meanwhile, out of the glare of the spotlight, you have Dan Jordan and Tom Martell going at it in their semi-final, and having had a break, they are now, one would imagine, well into their match, almost unnoticed by a crowd that is agog at what's going on in the scenario that you have on your screen right now. Does not look like our CCTV footage of the game is going to deliver the magic bullet that provides the answer to the precise makeup of Chilbert's hand one way or another. some head shaking going on in that department. So, does everything go back? Does everything continue? Was it the best meditate ever played? Again, completely accidentally, both players quite clearly forgot. Quite clearly forgot. So we're definitely hearing that the tape does not show in detail what Colin Chilbert's hand was and is at any particular, at the relevant points in this. Now, both players, I imagine, are having a fairly awkward lack of conversation with each other. Because they can't be the best of friends right now simply because it's 1-1. And CASTOR certainly is potentially about to find himself on the wrong end, though completely his own responsibility along with Chilbert, for, let's say, really quite a good meditate for Chilbert. Draw 4 cards, thanks. So, a very high level brains trust is going on behind the curtain. And I guess one of the good things is, I'm sure you're getting impatient at home, and I understand that, and do bear with us, but it's 6:45 here. We have time. Let's make the right call. So there is that ability to take a minute, reflect, look at the options, look at what's known, look at what is unknown that could be known, and as Donald Rumsfeld once said, the known knowns, the known unknowns, the unknown knowns, and the unknown unknowns. Let's find all of those. And what we don't know right now is how this is going to resolve. So you see both players there, really quite still, not in conversation, just sitting and waiting and gearing up for a ruling. So it looks like we have no tech help for this. We can't actually deliver a definitive answer. So Sheldon Menery, Ricardo Tessitore, Kevin Dupre in conversation.
That's a lot of levels of judge over there.
Isn't it just?
That's,
yes.
I guess we could say 15 if we're counting Emeritus as 6.
Okay, so let's take a wild stab in the dark here, which is incidentally what you'll be getting if you don't start being a bit more helpful, which is a quote from Blackadder.
Wow.
I can tell you that it is hard to see how this gets reversed. The gut instinct says it's too late. Too much stuff occurred. Look at that defense grid. Look at that force of will and that ponder. They're on the table. Everyone knows who they are. The game has progressed mightily on. That would be the guess. How about Sheldon Menery comes back in and has a chat? I don't know whether you're in a position to have a conversation with us yet on air. If you're not, that's absolutely fine. And obviously do feel free to separate entirely the hat you've worn for the last 5 minutes and the broadcast hat you're about to resume. We will all completely understand if some conversations remain private.
Well, of course, we had a great precedent-setting event at Pro Tour Honolulu.
Yeah.
The match in which there was a wolf token that should have gone to the graveyard and was a turn later noticed by Kibler himself, actually. Wait a minute. Anyway. So, in what could only be considered a landmark decision, head judge Toby Elliott decided at that time to back up.
Secure in the knowledge that incontrovertible evidence of everything that had occurred absolutely existed
on the camera.
Pretty much at the touch of a button.
Right, because remember at the Pro Tour we have a state-of-the-art, high-tech, 4-angle, I believe, camera that gets everything.
So, moving on.
In
We left
this
Honolulu. Here we are in Indianapolis. There is a minefield going on in that silence, by the way, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. I can tell you, there was a navigation of labyrinthine complexity.
One of the things, I came back into the booth then and explained why Toby had ruled the way he did, remarked that it was indeed a significant deviation from DCI policy.
Yep.
But because of what we could reconstruct,
Yes.
we were confident that backing up was not dangerous to this particular game and dangerous to the game in general.
Sure.
Head judges do have leeway to back situations up.
Yes.
If they feel they can reconstruct them well enough.
Yeah.
In this situation, Head Judge Ricardo Testatori is going to rule, and I believe he's explaining to the players right now, that he's comfortable enough with backing up.
Wow.
That we couldn't pick. We looked through the video here on GG's Live. Really didn't have a sense of what he had drawn through the ponder or anything that he had drawn. Ricardo believes, I think Ricardo believes that this situation is also significant and exceptional.
Right.
This is when we deviate.
Yeah, so these are the key words. So is the upshot of that what's about to take place on screen is that defense grid will be back in Chilbert's hand?
Yes.
That Force of Will and Ponder will be back in Kenny Castor's hand?
Yes.
That the two islands on the left of screen will be untapped?
Will be tapped, actually.
Oh,
we're going to go back to where the mistake occurred.
But weren't they for the defense grid?
Yeah, everything is going to get tapped. It's going to get No, at the end of
we're going
at
back
the end
of Castor's
last turn. To the last.
So there we are. That is right.
Where the illegal thing happened, and the illegal thing happened was Colin Chilbert taking a turn.
Began a turn. Yeah.
Right.
So here, have a hand back. They have a top card back. Have your Force of Will and Ponder back.
Yep. Get tapped.
Out.
Now, this is not the ideal situation.
Sure.
Nothing. As soon as the mistake happened, as soon as Colin didn't skip his turn,
yep,
we could not have an organic ideal situation any longer.
No, because something's broken and it requires fixing in the same way as a broken leg sometimes requires a steel implant.
Correct.
It's not natural. It's still quite good for the leg.
Right. So, I think Ricardo believes here that we'd rather the most organic result to this game happen.
Sure, and the most organic thing is that Meditate does actually involve skipping a turn.
Right.
That Defense Grid may or may not get countered at some point in the future when it's allowed to be cast, which when it was cast it wasn't allowed to be cast because Meditate predicated that there would be a turn that didn't exist there.
Right.
So, yeah.
Of course, there was the immediate investigation of whether or not he thought that Colin did it intentionally.
Oh, sure, you have to check that, right?
And we're, very, very sure that it was simply a mistake, which happens in Magic. And as I said, Ricardo felt comfortable that this is going to be an organic game.
At which point, the organic game continues with double insectile aberration for Kenny Castor, with Colin Chilbert at 15. Senses Dividing Top in play. A Brainstorm resolving. Chilbert tapped out, having skipped his turn that Meditate required him so to do.
Right.
A smash for 6 from double insectile aberration.
This takes Chilbert to 9.
Tarmogoyf, which puts him to dead next turn. So after all that, there will be another turn, and it will go to Colin Chilbert. If he wins from here, and I know that there are cards that can make him do that, I will be extremely impressed because, boy, was that ever a tough situation.
Well, he has a time spiral in his hand.
No, yeah, but just on the psychological level, that's been quite an episode for both these players. And it's Chilbert who now has to make the big decisions.
Right.
Merchant Scroll. How's about it? Kenny says, sure. So, 2 cards in hand for Castor. Go and get High Tide. Candelabra of Tornos already in play. Is this going to be the turn after all our High Tide fun and frolics through the weekend, where we watch High Tide deliver the goods? Castor is going to put Sensi's Divining Top on top, show force of will, send it away with Ponder, which of course Chilbert, as it turns out, knows all about.
There's the Pact of Negation.
And so now, Stifle on the trigger! And that gives the match to Kenny Castor. Wow!
So, a lot of excitement and a big finish.
Yes!
That's going to be an exciting finish regardless, because the same thing's going to try to happen.
Yep.
And that Stifle's still going to get cast.
Wowie!
So, there he is, the man of the hour, Riccardo Tessitore from Italy, making a very difficult decision in a very complicated situation.
Kenny doesn't look thrilled.
Well, again, Kenny could have avoided all that by...
Here's a clue. Remember the meditate.
Remember
Think
the
about
meditate.
it even.
Right. Well, I mean, if I'm in Kenny's situation, I'm pretty excited I'm getting an extra turn, so I'm not letting it slip away. You know, it's
Yes.
it's like, it's, you know, Kenny was like forgetting his free drink at happy hour there.